Hey, what's going on, guys? Okay, so this video is the very basics of each school and what they do, all seven schools, the very basic ones, not including, the other four that came in later in the second storyline of Wizard101, which I will get to in a different video, but these are just the seven. You start out with your main schools and the secondary schools. Um, so what we're going to start with is we shall start with the elementals, which are the three schools: Storm, Ice, and Fire. These are called the elemental schools, and little history on them is because they all started from the um, whatever, like the Storm Titan, the Fire Dragon, and the Frost Giants. They had this huge battle back in the day, and um, then they gave out these powers to the Spiral, and the spirit schools, which is Life, Death, and Myth. They came from Fire, Ice, and Storm. So the Death came between Storm and Ice, and the Life became between Storm and Fire, and Myth came between Ice and Fire. And that's how all these came together. And of course, balance is its own kind of little thing. It just it's just there. Honestly, it kind of it feeds off on all the other schools, but it is its own school in the sense of a way that it does crazy stuff. It's more of a support than any other schools are. So first, let's start with, I guess, the elementals, let's start with Storm. So on Storm, um, the very basics of Storm is damage. They do a lot of damage, and they they hit really hard, and they can do mass, which is what people call it when one-shotting people, killing them in one hit. Um, but the downfall before Storm is that they have very low health, and they have very little resistance to the other schools, and it's hard to control Storm and the Spire, which means that it has low accuracy. Um, uh, so in the very beginning, when you're starting off on a Storm Wizard, you will be doing a lot of fizzles, which is the not being able to cast a spell. That's just you. It's called fizzling. That's what the basic thing of it is called. So if you want to do Storm, you want to be a damage person, go ahead. I mean, it's the best one for damage. You get the best base damage percentage, which you will find out more in the game what that is. Um, Later on in the second storyline, critical chance comes out. You'll have the best critical chance, but you'll barely have any critical block, or if you do, it's very low, and you barely will block things. So they become they become better as you go through the first storyline and the second one. But at the very beginning, it is hard for a Storm to go off and do things on its own. You might need to be with people when you start out a Storm, but later on, when you're getting better and you're getting better damage and critical chance, and um, you have a decent resist, you can definitely do this wizard as um, a solo, if you will. So that's the basic with them. They don't have really any like specialties other than damage. They can uh, they can disarm people, which is get rid of their blades, and they can get rid of negative blades on them. That just helps them further, and it helps them stay alive with that. So, but other than that, really, they have no special part about them. Now, fire, which is the next one we're going to go on to, fire has really high damage as well, although not quite as high as storm does. Although fire, it has a little bit more accuracy than storm. Of course, it's not that much. But the main thing about fire is that it's damage over time. They have a lot of damage over time stuff, which if you play fire, you'll see on your second spell actually, the fire elf or whatever. he when you hit, he hits with a really low amount, and then it puts a little thing on them called a tick, which goes around them the people, and it damages them every round for 3 rounds. Now, what's good about that? Now, you might think like, oh, that sucks. That's just more time for them to hit me. But really, it's good because if you're playing against something that has a lot of shields or stuff like that for your person, or if it puts a fire shield on you, your first hit is always going to be lower than, or mostly lower, except for one spell, but um, it's going to be lower than the other tick hits. So you take out that first shield, and the rest of the ticks will do the work for you. And that's a good thing because then you can get rid of shields and you don't really have to worry about shields or anything. But the downside to this is, since they have the damage over time, converts, which is something you get in the game, which converts your school into the opposite school. So for fire, it's ice, storm, it's myth, ice, it's fire, so on and so forth. The opposites, which you'll learn when you get it, it'll tell you what it turns into. The damage over time doesn't stick with that convert. It only does it for that initial hit. So that's the downside of fire is that, but they have that cool little damage over time thing that can get rid of shields and just really make sure that you secure the kill with um, that damage over time. Now the last elemental is the ice, and they are the tanks of the Spiral and Wizard101. They have the most health, have the most resistance, are able to just they have the most critical block. They have the most there's anything that can have tank in it that lets you sustain throughout a battle. That's what ice has, and they're really good by that because, and also their little thing that they have for ice is that they can steal wards, which is shields, um, from enemy players and put them on themselves, which help them out because that helps them sustain even longer. And they have a tower shield, which is a -50 that you get at level 16, which is -50 to any school, and that helps you sustain a lot. And that's why a lot of people usually get it as their secondary school because of that sustain. And that's a good tip I'd give to anyone is if you want to go for a secondary school, I'd start out with ice because of that tower shield. I just go up to the tower shield and not get anything else, but um, that tower shield really does help sustain, especially if you don't have people that you're going with and you're doing it by yourself. Then that helps you sustain out through a lot. Now, as far as accuracy, they have the best out of the elemental. They have 80%. It's whatever, but their damage is the lowest of all the schools in the whole spiral. They don't do much damage at all. They are very much not a solo piece. They are a support school. They should be doing it with people. I mean, you can very much so solo with ice, although just a little I guess sneak peek into ice. Um, the blades, which is the thing that goes over your head that increases your damage, every other school gets them either in Wizard City or in Crocotopia. Ice doesn't get them to level 38, and it is a really hard quest to get because you have to defeat 2 people, and I think one of them's ice, and it's not easy to do it alone, and you have to do it alone. So that's a it's a big thing. You don't get your big boost of damage until you're level 38, which is in Mushu, the third world in Wizard101 for the first storyline, which is Malistaire. But other than that, that's the basics on them. So now we're gonna move into the spirit schools, which is life, death, and myth. So on life, um, life is the healers. Their main focus is healing people and keeping people alive and in fights. So they can solo for that. They not bad at it. They can heal themselves. They can use power pips, which you'll learn about in the game what that is. If you continue playing, uh, and you can use that on yourself, and you can heal others. You can your first heal that you get, which is Pixie for all the other schools, and then Fairy for you, which gives 420 health. and it's not to yourself. You can do that to anyone or yourself. So that's your very first heal, and that's a good for them. And uh, the reason that life sits between fire and storm is because life magic rests between fire and storm, for the spark of life comes between those two forces. So that's the little um, life history about that. And really, they don't have they don't have any special things except for the fact that they can heal very well. They have the highest accuracy of all. They have 90%. That's damage and healing. That's not just one. That's not just healing or anything. 90% of the. Although most other schools, except Death, will give accuracy boost to it in your gear and stuff. So that's the thing. In life, you don't really get that. Not really. I mean, in the gear that you should be wearing, you don't get that. But they are able to. They have gear that gives them outgoing heal, which is good for life people. Um, helps more heal going out for people. Um, so they that's life really in a nutshell. There's not much else to it except that. Um, so the next one, which will just do the opposite, I guess, of life, which is death. Makes sense, obviously. And death is their main thing is um, they can hit people with a steel heel, which is a heart with a crack in it, and you see that, and it converts half of that hit into health for you. So you take, I guess you can say, strength from your opponent to yourself, which just heals you, which is why Death is debated as the best solo. If you want to go on alone, Death will probably be the best for you because, especially if you're a member, you get Deathblade at like Deathblade and Death Trap, both in Wizard City. You get Curse, which is plus 20 in Crocotopia. Then you get Faint at like 20, 28 or something like that, which is a plus 70. You get all these boosts to that, and you can just keep healing yourself constantly. Um, they're they're just if you want to go on it alone, these are the guys. And in the game, they say Myth is, which we'll get to next. But really, I think personally, Death is for sure the best people to go alone with because of that fact that you can hit people and then heal yourself half of what you hit them. And the reason that Death sits between Ice and Storm because for the cold energy that Undeath draws on these two forces, that's why it sits in between there because of that reason. And yeah, and the little thing about Death is that you have basically two teachers, I guess, in a sense. The first guy is Maloran Ashlorn or something like that. He's in Wizard City. He's where the Death School used to be, but of course that goes away because of Malstair and blah 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 blah. But he sits there and he gets you up to like level 16, which I think is Vampire, and then you go to Dworgen, who's in Nightside or Night. Is it Nightside? Yeah, Nightside. Who he basically he carries it on from there. Um, he carries on your studies, and Malorn gives you like a couple quests for spells. I think all the way up to Death Convert, which is level like 7. So it's only one, and then the rest is from Dworgen. So um, just know that once you finish Malorn Ashthorn at 7 or 16, really, if someone asks to come do a quest for you and to give you a new spell, it's gonna be Dworgen. So just know that. And then the last school for the spirit will be Myth, and Myth they have a couple honestly little things about them. One is that they are really good at summoning creatures to help them fight, and they have like 6 maybe I think 6 or 5 or 6 uh, creatures that they could summon to help them fight, and that's why they say Myth is probably the best for soloing because of that reason. But honestly, I don't think it is because if it's just that those that cost pips, and it maybe it is for that reason, but still you that just takes the battle longer. Um, but they are. They do yeah, that's the one thing that I guess surpasses that, especially for like PvPing. I mean, having that ability to do that, they can put a lot of pressure on people. Is what they can do, especially at the lower levels. I'm not so sure about how it is in the higher levels, but definitely in the lower levels, you can put a lot of pressure on people and stuff like that. Well, and then our second thing is that they can um, they have these spells that hit twice, I guess in a sense, which is what the first hit is a low number and the second hit is a really high number. And they have two two or three like that. I think it's just two. Which is Minotaur and Cerberus. I can't think if there's another one. I don't think there is. Um, and it hits low on the first one and high on the second one, which is good to get rid of, I guess, tower shields in a sense, or a myth shield, just one myth shield. But the bad thing about that is that converts also is another thing. You have to have two converts. It doesn't go with two. So if you want to do that, you have to have two converts on the person for both hits to be converted over, which kind of sucks in a sense. But I mean, that's what you have to deal with. Also, they're very good at getting rid of shields. They have a card called Pierce, which I don't know what level you get it at. Not sure. It gets rid of one shield, whichever comes in line last, or whichever one was last put on there. Gets rid of that one. And they also have Cleanse Ward, which gets rid of any negative wards on you, which is like a feint on you or like a death trap or any traps on you basically. It can get rid of that, which is good. And then that's that's really what is good about that. So the last thing is balance, which is a thing of its own. Really, I don't think it really doesn't. It pulls off of magic from all the schools, which is what I already said earlier in the video. And um, in the beginning, really, the very like the lower part, it kind of pulls off elementals more, and then later on it pulls on spiritual or spirit schools as well. Um, like you have Spectral Blast, which is it does either fire damage, ice, or storm damage. One of the three, it's at random. You have an Hydra, which does 190 of each elemental school. So I mean, you have those kind of things, and you have you can get um, uh, Balance Blade, which is plus 25 to any school, does not matter, whatever, which is good for support. You have Blade Storm, which is plus 20 to all people of any school, plus 20% blade for each person, and it's for whatever school. You have Weakness, which is minus 25 to the next damage spell, does not matter what school it's from. It's they're very good at either hindering people of any school or helping people of any school, and that's what's good about them. And also, just like Death, you have like two teachers, Arthur Weathersfield, which I think is also 16, if I'm not mistaken, maybe 22, and then Al Harzred, I don't know how to say Al He's the Crocotopia balance teacher, and he picks up your studies once you go to Crocotopia. So that's about that for balance. They don't have really anything special, I guess you could say, about them, like the other ones, other than the fact that they can do that. They can just really either help someone or hinder other people if you're going against. Um, they have one thing called Donate Power, which it takes 3 pips away from you and gives 2 to someone else. You can cast on yourself, but that's kind of a waste of time. I mean, there's no point in doing that. But you can give pips to other people, and it's just 2 regular pips. Nope, it's not like a power pip or anything like that. But yeah, that's the basics of balance, or not balance, of all the schools and what they do and all that other stuff. And really, there's not much else to say about them other than that. That's what they do. That's how they roll, and that's about it. All right. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope you'll have a good day.